like I say, I didn't need to see the proof or evidence. Like I've been saying for years, Auschwitz also had the first decontamination of food. We were testing out, like I said, it was a cup, and it had a false bottom in it, and basically the cup had a radioactive element, and we tested it so to make sure that it didn't give off too much background radiation, and to the cup was sufficient shielding that, you know, you could hold it and stand next to it and you wouldn't get it was basically just a little bit higher than background radiation. But we tested out, we put fluid inside the cup, and then the bottom to the cup had a different kind of metal that was thinner that would allow the radiation to beam up the cup. Now, technically, when you drink the fluid out of the cup, you'd be irradiating yourself just a little bit. So probably take the fluid and pour it in there. But basically, the radiation would go through it, and it would basically kill any bacteria in the water sample. So they were water safe cups pretty much, and we made like a couple of them. You know, normally we use steam and everything else like that. We just test made the cups just to see about the effectiveness, and then later on we decided that the possibility for someone eating the tablets, because some people found it in the bottom and started messing around and chewing on it. It's like, no, don't do that. Ugh, because you could take the bottom out. It was like a cup. It was like a cup and a cup, basically. What we did is we made the bottom to the cup and then like a little cup. We made it a couple different varieties where it was like a cup and a cup. And it was like for emergency, and it would come in a little container or whatever, another metal container or whatever. And then later on, we decided on more of a like a water, like where you have a ring around a thingy and the water passes through it and it radiates the water as it goes along, so it would kill any bacteria in the water system. We made like these things so it was irradiating the water. And then that was before we figured out the ultraviolet light. Later on, we figured out the ultraviolet light also kills some bacteria too. And I think the best way to do it is radiation and ultraviolet light. Anyway, it radiates the water just a little bit. And we tested it, and it's just slightly radioactive. You know, it's just a little bit, what's it called? But it's still fairly safe to drink and everything else like that. Just a little bit more in the background, but enough to kill the bacteria. Radiation and bacteria, because bacteria is there's so much radiation coming out or whatever that pretty much bacteria apparently I think is fairly easy to kill. It's a really simple organism, so like any damage to it at all I think kills it or something like that. Anyway, but that's how we do all the food, and that's why when they plan to poison all the people in the military, all the people in the government, like 1850 or 1890, like JFK, Roosevelt. Like I said, what they were doing is they were playing the stock market. They were selling a bunch of stuff, taking a bunch of money in, and then what they were going to do, because they said everything's negotiable, and they negotiated with the other countries or the other factories to basically at a lower level, you know, saying, okay, well, you'll accept this, or just make them, and the production was going, and Roosevelt and everybody on the stock market had already sold everything and already spent most of the money. And what they were intending to do basically is pretty much poison everyone, I think. Because there was someone in the United States military that was basically they hit my 2 food processing plants, and then they hit a whole bunch, like 200 other food processing plants that other people owned. And so basically 70% of the world's food was going to be poisoned. But my processing plants did about 30% of the world's food, or 20% of the world's food. So basically my people survived. My people wouldn't have survived. But like I said, I hadn't told the public. I hadn't told anyone. Nobody knew about my radiation. Only the people that were at Auschwitz, and only the people in the food industry that were a part of my factory knew about the radiation treatment of the food. Roosevelt didn't know. Nixon didn't know. Nobody knew, except for me and my people. And it came at great cost, because I had been doing the research and we had been doing everything. And if you were a scientist, you would have known, but maybe. But basically, the people in the stock exchange, the people on Wall Street, the people who were supposedly rich, they didn't know. So they were taking the anthrax powder and other stuff, and they were like dousing all the food and using an eyedropper on the food, saying that they were testing. I think Nixon or somebody said, we're testing for the bacteria. Now, if this fluid fluoresces, then we will know that it is bacterial positive. Nope, it's clean. And he was like a general or something, like a 4-star general or something. Anyway, my people said he was using an eyedropper on the food, and he eyedropped some fluid on the food. My people didn't really care because, like I said, we had put, like, we had literally taken feces and like smeared it on the food, and then taking it to the radiation thing. It's like, yep, there's nothing living on that. Anyway, we had literally we had sent everything possible. We took a body. It's clean. we had set up our radiation. You could actually change the shutter on the radiation speed. You could go on the radiation machine because it would do a shutter. In the old systems, it would go, and then a shutter would open, and it would irradiate the food for just a second, and then the shutter would close. And we were testing out how much, because we wanted to make sure that the food wasn't radioactive, but everything in it was dead. So we would go. So we were doing all these tests. Only Japan and me knew about this. In Auschwitz. So, the food would come in and go, shutter, closed. And we could also take a picture of the food if we wanted. But basically, anything that was living on there would be dead. So when they came into my factory over there in Japan and China, and they're using this little eyedropper, and they're going, well, if there's any bacteria on here, the fluid will fluoresce. And once my scientist found out about that, I was like, what the? There's no fluid like that. Anyway, it was with a licensed food inspector, though, which was a Chinese guy, which was a very honorable guy. And he hadn't done anything, but he had been there, and this guy had light his way past him. So anyway, I find out, and then, like I say, there's this huge, everybody's sick, everybody's dying, like Ebola, Black Plague, it's everywhere. And when we actually get blamed, like I say, but I have three factories, the largest food manufacturers, and we also get recorded messages of basically Nixon basically saying, I powdered that like crazy, we powdered it all over that. They should have been bad. It should have been on there. But they didn't know about my shutter and my radiation. So when they put anthrax and Ebola on my food, it would because we had tested feces. We had tested a plague body. We took a plague body, put it in the machine, then looked around it. Is it clean? Nope, there's nothing on it. So we could get 90%. We got 98% of any bacterial on the food, and so that's why basically when they tried to when Wall Street and the fake government tried to poison everyone, that my people didn't get sick, or we got a little sick, and plus I had bacterial research already going, and then they tried to blame Unit 731 and say that they were responsible, but they weren't responsible. It was actually like Nixon and JFK and Jimmy Carter and Jimmy Ford and all them and the people at Wall Street, in New York. So anyway, this whole thing. Anyway, though, and they were going to kill 500 million people or a billion people. 3 billion people or so. I mean, it would have killed, because I was responsible for about 25% or 31 or 36% of the food market, and then everybody else made up the rest with smaller packing factories, and they didn't have the radiation, but I did. So we went through with a fine-tooth comb looking for the bacteria and how it got on there and everything else like that.